I just thought I'll make a few comments on, on alternatives for expanding internet access. Actually, Pramod, you mentioned the article by Nandan Nilekani. I was the co-author of that article, and so I just thought I'll maybe put some more context to what we said there. I'm sort of not going to touch upon many of the things that have already been discussed, and I have many more questions than I have to say, but I'll stick to the topic, for the next few minutes. There have been a couple of issues that I feel that have been mixed up in this debate. On the one hand, there was the Facebook free basics and there was the zero rating, which presumably were to improve the finances of the telcos, as Vikram pointed out. That they would give an additional source of revenue. Whether this is the right way to do it or not has been the topic of this evening. But it's a $2 ARPU and falling and all that stuff. So that's one part of the debate. The second part of the debate is that we must have this kind of stuff so that the poor can be brought online. And there is no doubt about the fact that the internet is a fantastic tool for poverty alleviation. I don't think I need to belabor that point here. But I don't think necessarily that these two have to be mixed up. And, Pramod, you mentioned one point about that only the internet had spoken up maybe in some of these consultations. I was not necessarily there, but I feel that this was one of the largest consultations that has ever happened in the history of all consultations in this country. And I think the government has carried out a fair assessment and a fair process. And finally, I don't think it's about who speaks up, but about bringing multiple points of view on the table. And the government finally does, stand for all the people in the country, not just for the people who are in the consultation. It was not, as a TRA thing letter said, it's not a referendum process. It was done in the right process. Now, if we separate out these 2 points of, do we need state action for the public good of bringing people onto the internet, separate that from the fact that does the internet need to be perhaps, crippled in some way for those people. I think the regulation has been very positive, and it clearly defines that, yes, you have all these levers of working with pricing, so long as you do not distort internet access for anyone. Now, that leaves the question of poverty alleviation aside, and this was the topic of the article that Nandan Nilekani and I wrote in the Times of India. And the point was very straightforward. This was based on our experiences in the Aadhaar project where I worked, for the chairman back then. And the idea was very straightforward that when state brings out action for improving public good in certain ways, it can be done in either a distortive fashion or a non-distortive fashion. Many of the subsidy programs that we have seen so far in the last 30-40 years of independent India's existence have been done in distortive ways, because I buy LPG from the market, but it's sold at a lower price than the market price, and that creates the purpose. The LPG distributor, whose job it is to take the LPG and bring it to me, suddenly has now become party to my contract between myself and the LPG company, Indian or whatever, the IOC or whatever it is. And he is taking benefit of this differential pricing in the market, that the market price is something and there is a separate price that the government has enforced, and that allows for this distortion to happen. And the way this was solved very cleanly, as a matter of fact, was that the subsidy is removed from the provider of the good. So LPG was sold in the market at market price, so you buy it for 600 or 800 rupees from now on, and the government, which is deciding that who should receive this subsidy, with whatever rules the government has decided, it sends the subsidy back into your bank account. This makes the oil companies free of the subsidy regime. They are competitive, they actually love it, not having to deal with it, and the government can now decide what to do with the rules of the subsidy, how to bring it up, to bring it down. And we had in this budget, the finance minister announced that in fact BPL households may even get a larger subsidy, so targeting of subsidies. And given that this infrastructure has been put in place, why can't we, if we as a country believe that internet is a poverty alleviation tool, and it's not good enough that people are coming on board everyone will be on the internet in 5 years or 10 years or whatever the time may be. Maybe we want them all on board in the next 2 years. The government can actually subsidize the internet, and we actually said it could be an internet data pack that everyone gets free of charge. And this was deliberately meant to be something to tickle the thought process rather than anything concrete at that point. But the point was, we took some of the prices of the data packs that were available in advertisements of telcos and extrapolated it. And, as I think you may be able to tell me, but I think if we take the rates that you had suggested per megabyte, I think the costs would be a fractional of what we suggested. But we took the 5 MB packs or the 10 MB pack prices, which will be very high. Correct. But even if, the price I pay per megabyte today is significantly lower than the per MB pack for the 5 MB person or whatever it is that we took as the price. And our basic calculation was 2,400 crore is all it takes to bring everyone online. And you don't even need to target, because it can be done very simply. The issue of multiple SIM cards can be handled with Aadhaar for the deduplication. And for such a small cost, you can actually avoid having the distortion of the internet or net neutrality, while you can bring about the positive action of getting everyone on board at the same time. And I think the price to the government can actually be substantially lesser because of the way tendering in government is done. It won't be at these prices. And it would also create demand rather than a supply-driven infrastructure. So when everyone has a free data pack and everyone is using a 3G internet, even if it's just 100 MB, I think the telecom providers will have reason to invest in that space. The financials, I think Vikram talked about, so I won't know more about that. But I would think that creating demand is the right way to go. And we additionally pointed out that the USO fund, which has 40,000 crores sitting in it, at least at the time when we wrote the article, of which, spending 2,400 crore towards even what could be an experiment might be a worthwhile idea. And so I just wanted to put those ideas out here. Thank you.